Hello, 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 and welcome everyone. We're at the top of the hour, and this is Making Bots. Pete and I are back. It's been a little bit of a break, I think, Pete, since we've been.
It has been a while. It has been a while.
But hey, we're back better than before. You still got your coffee. It's earlier than it is typically in Australia for you, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, we have the daylight savings opposite thing going on. So 6 a.m. here rather than I think it's usually 8 a.m. for me. But that's all good.
Wow, that's no joke. So thank you for lending your talents for us here. As people join the room today, jump over to the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from. I would love to see everyone around the world, including Pete. We also have the polls tab open. If you want to jump over to the poll and let us know what kind of use cases are you working on. Today, we're going to be talking about e-com and a style advisor product recommendations, but there's lots of different e-commerce use cases. So, or actually any general use case as well. So let us know what kind of AI agent use cases you're exploring. And we'll get started in about 30 seconds or so with the style advisor. Awesome. A few more people are rolling in the room here, which is great. If you want to, as you hop into the room, if you want to let us know where you're tuning in from and fill out the poll, it's super helpful. Good data for us as we see who's here and who we're speaking to as we get going. Austin, thanks for joining. Yeah, I think we'll kick it off and get rolling as people join now. Awesome. I always love to do this, just a little smattering of who are some of the teams that have signed up and are actually here, just to give an understanding that like everyone, regardless of company size or team size or industries, is thinking about AI agents today, which is exciting. Even though this is a specific e-commerce use case, we got insurance companies and banks and fintech, not to mention some big players in the e-com space. I'm thinking about, hey, how do I use AI to create product recommendation use cases? So excited to have these teams and many more here today. And then a quick flyby of the agenda, what we're going to cover today. Give a quick intro. We'll go over the ideal structure for recommendations. Go over the variables we'll actually be using for Indochino today. The framework, kind of a peek inside Pete's mind here, and then jump onto Canvas and actually build a little bit. Which is why everyone's here. At the end of that, we'll have a template, some Q&A, and set everyone off to go build their own product recs. That said, Pete, you want to give a quick intro before I toss the slides over to you?
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Pete. I'm Senior Conversation Design Advocate at Voiceflow. What that means is basically I help a lot of our enterprise customers kind of do conversation design best practice, help them build out their conversation design practice, I guess, and do a lot of work with generative AI, and yeah, helping enterprises to start leveraging it.
Awesome. And I'm Sam from the marketing team, but Pete and I have been making and breaking bots for year plus now. So yeah, excited to be back with another. That said, Pete, I'll toss it over to you to kind of start on the idea of maybe extrapolating away from an agent, because the agent's doing something. So let's talk about what makes a good recommendation and why first.
Yeah, for sure. So this is really about thinking, when you're trying to get your agent to do something, you want to kind of think about what it is that they're trying to do. And so a good recommendation is kind of based on asking the right questions, understanding the user's preference, their needs, and also the context of the questions. So doing all this sort of starts to allow for these really personalized and relevant suggestions. So basically, what sort of questions do you need to ask? Well, when you are kind of making a recommendation, and this could be, a recommendation for food, it could be a recommendation for clothing, could be a recommendation for a car, whatever. Really, it's all about making sure that your questions are detailed and relevant. So you want to ensure that your questions are specific, but at the same time, you actually want them to be somewhat open-ended. You want them to allow the user to fill in the blanks and get all the information that you need. You want your questions to be guided. So you want to provide, sorry, I need to just quickly turn off Slack. Otherwise, we might start getting a lot of pings. You want them to be guided. So you want to provide all the examples to the user to help the user, sorry, to understand what you want. So it's really about understanding, this is what they want. This is the information that you need in order to give them the right response. And you want them to be personal. So tailoring them to the individual. So what kind of ways can you ask a question that is specific to their needs and that sort of thing? And again, be context aware. So ask questions that are based on the context of the conversation. So you want everything to sort of flow and be all nice. Now, when we're looking at what makes a good AI style recommender, so today we're actually going to do it for Indochino. So Indochino are actually they do women's wear as well, I found out while building this bot, but they're a kind of suit company. And really for this, I wanted to focus just on the suit. So when you think about suits, there are a few things that you really want to focus on. So the occasion, so where is the event and the setting for the garment? What sort of colors do you want? What sort of style are you after? You could think formal, casual, business. Fabrics are also very important. The garment type, so if you are maybe you want peaked lapels, notched lapels, maybe you want double-breasted, single-breasted, those sorts of things. And then also, on the event sort of tip, like what are specifics of the event? Like, are you going to be at an event which is really hot as opposed to somewhere where it's really cold? Or maybe the event is it's a daily suit for wearing at the office or something like that. So those are the sorts of things that you have to think about, basically. So when I was attacking this problem, this is kind of the way that I thought this flow would work. So we would take in a user utterance, and then we would have some form of prompt or multiple prompts that would basically go, do we have enough information to make a style recommendation? And then if we don't have enough information, basically ask for it, but ask for that information based on the conversation history and everything that we know about the user. And then finally, when we have enough information, we would present the recommendation to the user. So this is a very high level sort of thing of what we're doing. Now, next up, what we're going to actually look at today is a new alpha feature that we have at the moment. So it's if you wanted access to this feature, just hit us up on Discord and we can give you access, but it's not a publicly available thing. We need to turn it on a workspace by workspace thing. But what this basically is we have a new way of adding tabular data to a agent. So what you can see here is you can see the data, the name, and the searchable fields. They are all, and the items and the sort of metadata fields, they are all, you have to have them, but everything else in between can be completely what you want. So here I've created the fields suit name, style, fit, craftsmanship, color, pattern, fabric, links, and which have page link and image link. And these are kind of going to be the bits of data that we use for our knowledge base. And then you can see in the metadata fields, we've got suit name, style, fit, and I think I've got the page links in there. And that's really about so I can take that metadata and use that when presenting the information to the user.
Hey, Pete, really quick question for someone who's like, maybe has built on Voiceflow or has used more of like a point solution, or let's say like a Copilot, right? Where they're like, oh, I'm just going to add my links in and use it more for like an FAQ approach. Why is this level of control of a knowledge base in the data different and like actually needed, necessary in this use case?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, something like this, you could start doing things like maybe you want to be able to talk about how many of a product you have, or in the example of the page link and the image link, you want to be able to show a link that is related to this chunk every time. So in this instance, we've got a carousel and a function, which is going to show the images. And you don't want you basically want to take that and do it in a very deterministic way and show that to the user. Similarly, what you could also do is you could start to go, okay, whenever you hit this chunk, I want you to actually also be putting these buttons after that chunk. So the idea could be, every time someone wants to cancel a policy or something like that, I want to show a button after that which offers a transfer to the sales team or something like that to try and save them or something like that. So you could start to do those things so you can have this more deterministic kind of sort of lens on some generative AI and have these like kind of workflows that work with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because the agent is only as powerful as where you point it towards in your data, right? And having this level of markup, whether you're doing it for FAQs or you're doing it for tabular data, it's the same thing, right? Like you want to make sure your H1s are as accurate for the FAQs and the answers just as much as the tab data here. So
exactly.
Yeah, that's a good full circle from like what makes a good bot to then how does that actually play out in the data setup here. You good to jump in Canvas and start building?
Yeah,
right?
sure. Let's jump in.
I can stop there. While you pull that up, just a quick look at the poll. If you haven't filled out the poll, hop over to the polls tab and let us know what use cases you're considering as a team. But unsurprisingly, and probably a good place to start for many is that product recommendations is leading the pack today with many of the people here are thinking about product recs. So that's a great setup. The second one is FAQs. That's very common. We see FAQs in like a customer support environment. Cutting down on those level 1 tickets really is the go-to. So I think that checks with kind of where people are playing with use cases today. But if you haven't filled out the poll, prove us wrong and skew the numbers over the next little bit and add your data point in. But Pete, looks like you got the screen up, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, cool. So I found it all. So what I thought we could quickly do, which might be a little bit more fun, is rather than jump straight into the build, let's show it in action so you can get a bit of a sense of how this is all working. So first, I'll give you a quick thing of the knowledge base. So when we import that tabular data, this is kind of what it comes in like. So we have suit name, the high bridge nailhead, brown suit. So we've got the style, and all these sorts of things. Now, because this is an alpha part of because it's an alpha API, we haven't built out the whole UX at the moment, but you can start to see like everywhere where you see colon, you can see that is another point of data that you can pull. Now, let's go into this, and rather than we'll run an actual prototype and we'll show what it looks like, and then we'll dive into the actual build, and I'll kind of put it back together all live. Okay. So first thing we're going to do, I'm just going to do find a suit, and then we'll jump into the flow, and I'm going to turn all the debug mode off, so you don't need to be distracted with all of that. So, of course, I'd be delighted to assist you finding the perfect suit. To kick things off, could you tell me if there's a specific occasion you're shopping for? That way we can tailor your needs to a suit. Tailor your search to suit your needs. Sorry. No pun intended with the suit your needs. So how about we go... I am going to a wedding in La Rioja in August and need a suit, something like that. So what's going to happen then is we're going to go check, hey, okay, this is the kind of history of the conversation, or actually first we're going to create a summary of the conversation so far. And then we're going to go check what other information do we need. So La Rioja in August sounds like a beautiful setting for a wedding. To help you find this perfect suit, could you tell me, do you have any specific colors in mind? Are you aiming for a more formal or relaxed look for the event. So I was thinking about a yellow suit. I want something bold. In terms of fit, I'm thinking something more relaxed, and maybe I would want a lighter fabric. So I'm giving a lot of information here. It's going to create a summary of the conversation thus far, and then it will go in and maybe it's got enough information now. I mean, I did give it a fair bit. Actually, I think it might be trying to find a thing right now. Okay, sweet. I found some stuff. So what we have here, okay, I found some suits that would be perfect for a wedding in Larioca. The Marsh Wool Blend stretch suit offers a light, breathable fabric blend with a relaxed fit. Another good option is a Mondovi Seersucker soft yellow suit, which is bold and perfect for summer with its durable and textured seersucker fabric. For a bit of variety, you might also like the New Bridge Tweed wool suit, light grey, which is a stylish and comfortable, and the Marsh suit blend stretch in charcoal. So we can have a look here. We've got this stretch suit. We've got this Mondovi Seersucker one, which is probably more what I'd go for in this instance, and a couple of grey ones as well. So you can kind of see like the front end and what this is all looking like. But let's kind of put this all back together, and we'll go from there. So let me just make sure that I have all my tabs in order. So give me 2 secs.
Yeah, no problem. And while you do that, I think we wanted to start with the end product to give people an idea of like what we're going to be building. So if you do have questions as we go about like the how and the why, we'll be rebuilding core portions of that and sending out the template at the end. But please, any and all questions, technical, non-technical, business ops of why we did the recommendations this way. But you can start to see how applicable this would be for any e-com or product-driven, SKU-driven business. So yeah, excited to build with both LLMs and NLUs here.
Yeah, sweet. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is, so I've saved all the blocks into the library here so that we can just drag and drop them out, and then I can kind of explain what is happening here. So first thing that we want to do is assess that we have enough information. So this prompt here, what we're doing here is I guess this is kind of a few shot prompt. I mean, we're not really giving examples, but we're giving a lot of information to the LLM to kind of work out what we're going to want. So first up, we give the objective. So assist the user in selecting the perfect garment based on their needs. And then we have conversation history. And we have this little variable here, working memory, which we're going to use or create later on in the piece. So the first thing that we want the prompt to do is review the conversation history, check if there's check for any mentioned details about the user's garment preferences. We want to determine information availability. So if the user has provided details about the color, the type of suit, suggest options without further questions. If the details are missing, gather the following. So we want the occasion, we want the color, the style, the fabric, the garment type, event specifics, etc. So as you can see, we basically kind of got all of this with what I was saying before, and that's how it was able to give us that recommendation. Now, the one thing, so we've got to tailor the question to the situation as the garment's suitability varies with the context. Never ask what kind of fit they would like. So the part of the reason that I've said never ask for what kind of fit they would like is because we're doing this for Indochino. You actually build out the fit that you would kind of like. So it's doing that sort of part there. Okay, so next up, what we would require is we are going to want to grab the flow counter here. So why do I have a flow counter? So one of the things which you will kind of learn as you start to build stuff out with LLMs is you can have the best intentions, create a really great loop of things that you want to do. And sometimes the LLM just may keep asking a question. And maybe that's because your prompt's not good enough or something like that. But I sort of start to go, let's cap this at a certain amount of questions so that we can kind of be deterministic about when we start throwing information over to our knowledge base, which is how we're going to be doing the search. And basically go, look, after 4 questions, the user's probably going to be getting sick of this. Like, let's just make sure that we don't ask any more questions after that point. So we just have a simple flow counter here. I have a variable called flow counter, and I just am using this part here, which just is number in brackets flow counter +1. So what this is doing is every time we hit this thing, we're just adding +1. And once we get to 4, we will automatically jump over to a different, actually, I'll have to, let's quickly delete that, and we will jump to there. Okay, so we'll go to block. So otherwise it'll jump to the old one. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to ask the clarifying question. So up here, we've gone down this path. We need to ask a clarifying question. So what should that clarifying question be? So we're going to go down here. We're going to go here. And then basically we are using the AI set step. I've got the temperature actually fairly high for this. And part of this is that I want to give a little bit of creative license to the LLM to ask a question. So I don't want it to be very formulaic. I want it to be quite conversational. And when you have a temperature that's higher, you're basically increasing the likelihood of kind of a little bit of randomness in there. And in this clarifying question, we have, you are a style expert for Indochino. Your goal is to ask questions of the customer to help find the perfect suit. So we have a customer there, we have conversation history, and then we've got advice on the next questions to ask. So that advice is coming where's that advice coming? That advice is coming, from information check. So we have this information check over here. So basically I forgot to say before that this prompt is basically saving this information into a variable, and then we're using it later on. So only ask 1 or 2 questions at a time. Don't present your questions in a list. This should read to be quite conversational. Never begin your message by welcoming the user. Cool. So we'll jump over here. We'll connect this one so that you can hit that select. So you can click a button at the start, and then you'll just go into here. And then the next thing that we're going to want to do is create a summary of everything. Now, usually I would actually think, I'm actually thinking in the initial design, I actually had the summary here, but I'm actually thinking what probably makes more sense is we actually add this summary to go here. And then I will delete that, and we're going to go down here. Now, the reason for this is this means that no matter how you come into the conversation, we're creating a summary of the conversation straight away. And that summary is used by this anyway. See that working memory? So here we have, based on the conversation history, create a summary of the type of suit the user is looking to purchase. And then here, we've basically got working memory and plus suit summary, and we're adding them together, and it will just create this like longer list of summaries of everything that the user is after. So what we might actually quickly do, create summary of working memory. We're going to do a little action there. And jump over to there. Okay, cool. So that one is all there. And now, is there anything else that we need to put in here? Generate a question. Which one's that one? Yes. Okay, cool. So the other stuff that we will need to do is we're going to need to generate a question for search. So once we have all the information from working memory, what we're going to want to do is actually extract all the keywords and construct the ideal question to retrieve the most relevant suit options from a vector database. So we're using GPT-4o here. We're actually using GPT-4o across all of this a lot because it's just very fast. And so we're going to put this here. And essentially, the idea behind this is we can go, all right, we're going to get all the information from a user, and then we're just going to basically do a keyword search on our vector database, and then use all the information that we retrieve from the vector database. So we will get all the details about the suits, we'll get the colors, all those sorts of things, and then we're going to construct a response, if that all makes sense. Now, I don't actually have everyone's faces live or see any questions, so I'm happy to are there any questions so far? Does this all make sense or anything like that?
There were a few questions about the specific models. We were marking a few for Q&A, but I think this might be a good time to break and answer a few of them before we go into the last step of the demo. Does that work?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. I'll pull up one here. This will be a good one. Sven was talking about the different models. Actually, this one's more relevant. 3.5 versus GPT-4o, and like the different how expensive versus inexpensive, and then layering that into the fact that you're using memory so aggressively here. How have you thought about costing?
Yeah. So yes, GPT 3.5 would be significantly cheaper, and look, you may be able to get this done with GPT 3.5. I think it would just take a lot more work on prompting, and you'd actually probably have to break this up into more controllable little pieces, which I haven't done in this case. Definitely possible, but yeah, for the demo, I was a bit lazy and used a more powerful model. It is worth noting GPT-4o is fairly cheap still, so it really depends on the scale that you're using, but something like this, it shouldn't be too bad. And it is also worth noting, yes, I'm using memory, but that counts as an input token, and input tokens are a lot cheaper than your output tokens. So yeah, that's kind of where I go with that one.
Great. I think the other questions are more about other use cases and more theory or other technical scoping. So we'll save those for the end.
Yep.
But if you have, to everyone here, if you have other questions, keep dropping them in the chat. Lena will mark them for Q&A, and I will have them to pass Pete's way at the end here.
Cool. All right. So what we'll quickly do is, I think we can give this a little test. And I mean, actually, what might actually help, kind of, if we go do this, we could almost, so we can kind of, so we can see what's happening here. We will go, oh, I see that one was actually going there. So that we can show everything that's happening, what I might do is let's go and we'll put some text blocks here, because I'm using a lot of variables here. We can have a look at what's actually happening. So if we go information check, and then we can see what the clarifying question is. Do we need to see anything else? We can also go over here, and we'll go information check, so we can see what happens right before then. And then we can also go and chuck this one here and go what was that one? I think it's KB output. There we go. All right, so let's give this a little go, and I'll just quickly chuck a Hi, welcome to Indochino. How can I help? And we'll go here. We'll give it a little test. Okay. So first up, so how about I just got a job. In fact, I'm just going to make sure that this doesn't jump to the actual thing. Otherwise, we might jump to the other one. So I just got a job in corporate law and am needing a new suit, something like that. So we'll give that a shot. So you can see, so first the information stuff here. So this is kind of what we've got. I see you're looking to purchase a new suit for corporate law. To find the perfect suit, I need, could you confirm the following? So we're grabbing that information here, and then we're converting that into a kind of a better question here. So congratulations on your new job in corporate law. To ensure we find the perfect suit for you, could you share if you have any particular color in mind? Also, do you lean towards something, towards a specific style, like something more traditional or perhaps a bit more modern and sleek? This is my first job as a lawyer, so I'm looking for the basics. I think I want something more modern and sharp. So, whoa, give me a sec. Whoops. Try that again. This is my first job as a lawyer. Whoops. So I am looking for the basics, maybe gray or navy. And I think I want something more modern and sharp. Try that. Okay, so we can have a look. So based on the conversation history, you were looking for a modern sharp suit suitable for the first job in corporate law with preference for basic colors like gray or navy. Here's a few options. So it's kind of, I probably actually here, having a look there, we probably need to actually increase the token count. There's probably some stuff going on there where the summary is not working as good. So congratulations, since you're looking for something basic, a modern sharp, both gray and navy are excellent choices. To narrow it down further, do you have preference for fit, such as slim or tailored? Additionally, would you like to consider any specific fabric like wool or wool blend for comfort and durability? So let's just say I live in Australia, so something that works year round. So we'll try something there. So we'll go to that now. Get that response. My guess is that this should go into everything, and as we can see here, whoops, I shouldn't. Yeah, I'll have a look at what that generate question for search actually should have been. So you can see this is what we've got here. Now, probably what would make more sense is we up the token limit here so we get a bit more to come out. And you can see here we've got the response, which basically goes through and says, this is what we want. And I will quickly check what that generate question for search was. I thought it was KB output, but you can see we've got a gray suit, 3 gray suits, a blue suit, and another gray check suit. So the way this is working is we're kind of doing a keyword search across the vectors within the database and then returning some stuff, which in a way is kind of the same sort of way that a person would kind of give a style recommendation, sort of do that sort of thing.
It's interesting too, because you start to realize, like, building with LLMs the way you're doing it right now, like there's very little that the bot is saying aside from the welcome message. And then the majority of the design is the logic and the thought process and the integration of data, LLMs, only to create this output, right? So it's whereas I think whatever, a year, 2 years ago, Pete, you were spending most of your time asking all of these product questions at every single turn of the conversation, right? So it became like okay, and what product or what size, what weather, what event, and it's like you just don't need to do that anymore. And you're right, like it's now cost effective enough to do this type of delightful user experience, in my opinion. Like I would love this on every time I had to buy a suit.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I did just see a question in there which was asking about how is the data formatted. What I will quickly do is I will share my screen again, but I won't have it as a tab, and I can show how we are doing this.
Yeah.
So let me just grab Postman, which is how we are interacting. So the data that I have added in there, let's have a look. Okay, here is one. So as you can see here, this is essentially how the data is formatted. And it's worth noting, I saw that it was asking how GPT can interact with this. What we are doing is we are using a vector database. So the vector database is actually pulling the information in and searching for the correct information based on vectors. And then we are providing, oh, you don't see Postman? That is, okay, give me 2 secs. I don't understand why that didn't work. Screen sharing should be way easier than it is. Here we go. So can you see Postman now? Yep, we can all see Postman Pete. So what we can see here is all the data. Now, as I was saying before, when you use a vector database, you're not actually using GPT to search that data. You are using the vector database. So when you upload your data, we're converting all of your text into vectors, and then your vector database will do a semantic search across all those vectors. And then when you return that information from the database, it will then basically, depending on your prompt, will go convert this into like something that is makes sense. So here, basically what you must have in your API call is you've got to have the data, name, searchable fields. You have to have stuff in items, and you have to have stuff in, you don't have to have stuff in metadata fields, and there's also tags as well. Now, everything, so that all this stuff here, that can be whatever you want. So say you have an e-commerce store, you could basically upload the JSON format of your e-commerce store and then decide here what is searchable, what is metadata, all that sort of stuff. And if we were to upload this, it's just as simple as going, sending that to our knowledge base. Now, as I said, this is an alpha thing at the moment, so it's not publicly available, but we do have, we are letting people test it out and have a go. And if you want to have a go, just hit me up on Discord or something like that, and I can start connecting you with the team to do that. So we can just upload one now. We'll upload one which will say testing. Did that work? There's a conflict there. Let's go testing 2. Okay, that looked like it did it. So if we went over here and we go knowledge base, yep, so we can see testing 1 and testing 2 are there. And this is what it looks like in the front end, but obviously we'll start to work on that a little bit more once this becomes a full, production kind of, once it's all completely built out. So let's delete these for now, and yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for the flyby.
No worries.
Well, yeah, I guess we're about to let's hop into the other questions that we have, Pete, unless there's anything else you wanted to cover on here.
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm sure we'll hop back in with some of these questions. Yeah, we got about 5-10 minutes or so before we'll wrap. So if you have any other questions, drop them in the chat. But we have a couple good ones here. Kareem asked if we'll have access to the design Yes, we'll give a template of this design that you can customize and work through for your own use case. So that'll definitely be helpful. Everyone loves those after the making bots because you can not have to start totally from scratch, which is great. Pete, you've done this a little bit. Gabriel was asking about using an external database. Obviously, the Knowledgebase API is pretty powerful in terms of the number of scale it can handle. But yeah, like Voiceflow is completely extensible to if you're having like your vector DB somewhere else. Pete, you've had experience doing work with that with some customers too, right?
Yeah. Look, at the moment, I'm just calling an API. So I am doing the Voiceflow Knowledgebase API. I am returning the chunk score and the chunks. You have a whole lot more stuff that you could return and applying those to variables. You could use whatever vector database you want to use. If you want to manage your own one or do anything like that, it's just an API call away. Essentially, you can think of Voiceflow as like an orchestrator between LLMs and whatever external service that you want. So yeah, if you want to use your own vector database, then by all means, go for it.
Awesome. Sven had a good question about you used a lot of bold and styling throughout this, especially for the recommendations. So how do you do that in the prompt?
Yeah, in here you can kind of see so basically within Voiceflow you can use markdown syntax. So as you can see here, we've got this double star here, and that's just bolding everything. You can put in here like format your responses in markdown syntax. You can give instructions on how to like create links and that sort of thing within your responses as well. So yeah, anything's kind of possible as long as you can do it in markdown syntax.
Awesome. Ben had a good question. You're doing a lot with prompts here, but how do you handle malicious prompts or just irrelevant prompts in a conversation like this?
Yeah. So in this one, we're doing quite a bit of, well, I guess there's a few things going on here. So if we are using intents, this makes it quite hard to jump in and go, who is the president? Because you would just never get into this workflow at all. If you did say at this point, who is the president or those sorts of things, I don't know what would happen, to be honest. But what I usually do a lot when I am doing flows where it hits a knowledge base for Q&A and that sort of thing is I do prompt transformation. So and kind of we're doing a little bit of that here, but it's not quite the same. So I was doing user question there, not KB output. Oh well. So what you would do with the first thing is you take the user's question. You might say, based on memory, generate a question that is ideal for search. And then what you would probably do is you would have like a few little places where you can basically derail the conversation and go to a fallback. So first thing would be checking the chunk score and going, okay, if the chunk score is below, say, 80%, go to a fallback and don't respond to the user. And the other one could be going, when you were actually generating the question, going, based on the user question and based on the chunks return, write an answer. If you cannot write an answer, output no answer. And then you would have a bit of logic saying, if the response contains no answer, go to a fallback. So you can start kind of doing stuff in that sort of way.
Awesome. Let me see any other questions that are rolling in. I think you answered most of these. Malicious prompts. Yeah, I think that hits most of the questions. There were a few that like all were on that model or hallucination front, so you kind of answered a bunch in the middle there. Awesome. I think unless there's any other questions, I think the next steps for us is that we'll send out a recording of this session tomorrow, alongside a link to this project. Pete, any tips for people as they hop in, if they're watching this on YouTube after the fact or right now as they hop into the project?
Yeah, look, one thing that I will note is you won't have access to the knowledge base with this, because obviously that would be associated with my API key. So you won't be able to see the knowledge base. What I can probably do is I'll chuck together with this. I'll put a few examples of the API calls that we are doing, and then with that I will you'll be able to basically upload it to the knowledge base using Postman or something like that yourselves, but obviously you would have to get access to the new feature, which, yeah, as I said, go to Discord, find me in the Voiceflow Discord. I think it's just my name, and I can get someone to help you get that in there.
Awesome. Yeah, agreed. I know, Austin, you had a few questions. Daniel, the Discord's the best place to now extend this conversation and go deeper with Pete and Daniel and Nico, Dennis, pretty much Braden. The whole company's in there ready to answer questions and jam, especially with every other builder that's in there. So it's a good extension, especially as you start to parse through the template, because there can be some nuances. But obviously, Pete demonstrated today an advanced use case and application. Regardless of the size of your team or what you're building for, can really have an impact on that checkout experience and basket size if you're measured on that in the e-com space. So appreciate everyone jumping in and joining. Pete, thank you as always for the build. Excited to get this in the hands of everyone heading into tomorrow. Thank you all for joining this episode of Making Bots, and we'll see you again next month.
Sweet. Bye.
Thanks all.